Good evening. Welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of August 18th, 2014. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tony?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dolores?
Councilor Hammond?
Here.
Councilor Hurley?
Here.
Councilor Kotkin?
Here.
Councilor Manusos?
Here.
Councilor Martino?
Here.
Councilor Rowell?
Here.
Councilor Roberts?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Barry?
Here.
And Chairperson Montanari.
Here.
Thank
Thank you, Dolores. Before we move into public comment, I wanted to just take a minute to make reference to Dave Scales. I think folks certainly are aware of it, probably in the public, but I wanted to take a moment of silence on behalf of a fallen comrade of our police department, retired with us for 26 plus years. David, of course, passed away unexpectedly a short time ago, left behind a wife and 2 children, and certainly an untimely and shocking loss of life. Many of us know that Dave served the community in a variety of capacities. One of the more notable ones was known as Officer Dare for our young adults who went through that program that Dave headed up. Many of us knew him personally, and I'm sure all of us would agree that his family will be going through some very difficult times in the short term, if not long, and I know many of the officers and friends of the Scales family will reach out and support them, but I ask that our community place them in our thoughts, and I ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Folks interested in public comment this evening. John?
I sent it to you down the couch. Oh no, I can get
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. John Console, 38 Ivy Lane. I just came tonight just for 2 quick ones. I'd like to address the article that was in the Rare Reminder on July 31st about the Webb tennis court replacement that was set for rebid. My concern is, I'd like to know, and I know, what had been done, and maybe the Park and Recs could address this at some point, but if a study was done to determine the demand versus the tennis courts relative to the amount of people and courts in the town, before we spend well over $100,000 to do these 2 tennis courts over. A little history about the courts. Webb Junior High was opened in 1962. The 2 tennis courts were put there as part of a curriculum for both boys and girls to take up tennis back at the time. Over the years, the tennis courts were no longer used when it was the Board of Education. Some people in the neighborhood did use the tennis courts, but not many. They fell into disrepair, and most of the time it was just children or elderly children at night, riding their bicycles around, hanging out, causing damage, knocking over the porta potties that were there, and just disrupting everything. And as you can see now, I think Mr. Council Kotkin is well aware that it's in pretty bad shape. I know there's a evaluation being done to spend a little over $100,000, but I would ask that the council, before you go and make this decision, really consider some other alternatives. Will there be more tennis courts in use when the high school is completed? And the answer to that is yes. Will people have to drive there in order to play tennis? Yes, they will. Are there tennis courts at Mill Woods? Yes, there are. Are there enough? I'm not sure if a study's been done to determine if there's enough. Can we member up with Pine Acres, who already has tennis courts there, and perhaps have a pay-as-you-use sort of town could pay so much a year to Pine Acres for town members to go use those courts on a reserve type of basis. I think these types of things should be vetted and a holistic plan be put into place as to where things are and how they're being used. Another idea that came to mind is on Cedar Street, which has turned into a pretty nice local park. There's a basketball court there that's very well maintained, and the people that do use it do clean up after themselves because there's residents that live across the street, and I know they'll call authorities if that doesn't take place, and that's pretty calm all the time. There's a playground there. There's a small hut with some picnic tables that people have used during the summer. You know, has any thought been putting one tennis court instead of two in that area and make that a small community park for the whole area? And that would cost a lot less than $100,000. So I just think these are things that should be thought of before we go spending $100,000. Perhaps a better way to be, like I said, maybe one tennis court, or to look at the whole approach throughout the town and see how many people are really playing tennis, and to possibly use that extra funds in road use. So that's enough said about that. The other thing is, I voted the other day in the primary, and I went to Webb School. And I'd like to know who the interior designer is for our schools, because they painted most of Webb School on the inside. It looks like penitentiary blue. I don't know where they got this blue color from, but it is by far the worst paint color I have seen in my life. And you talk about institutional colors. Whoever picked this out, either they got the paint for free or they're colorblind, but I just don't understand why they would maintain our buildings in that way and use those type of colors in the building is beyond me. If you haven't seen it, you should go take a look at what they did in the type of paint job. It just looks like a prison. It really does. And shame on whoever did that. Thank you very much.
Gus?
Good evening. Gus Colantonio, 16 Morrison Avenue. I guess I've been here now to a lot of meetings for the past few years. And I came to a conclusion that basically the town council either doesn't care, nor does it listen, one or the other. I like to think that they don't listen, because it's the worst of the two evils, I guess, you know. Why am I saying this? The stop sign. And let me start by quoting May 21st, 2009 police report. I've done this before, but I'm going to try it again. And I'm just going to quote a paragraph right here. The stop sign for westbound traffic on Morrison Avenue at Orchard Street is necessary because of a sightline restriction when on Orchard Street. I found that when driving south on Orchard Street, it is difficult to see westbound cars because of a fence at 6 Orchard Street, and the grade of the road on Morrison Avenue just west of Orchard Street, which is basically 6% in the vicinity. It's coming up, which is good. That's the quote. That's what Mr. Power says. You do need a stop sign on Orchard and Morrison Avenue in the westbound direction because you cannot see. Subsequent to that, I did request some sight distance for those intersections. These were taken in 2010, 2011 from the town. Orchard and Hillcrest. Approaching Hillcrest, if you look to the east, you can see 344 feet. 344 feet. You do have a stop sign in the westbound direction. Looking in the westbound direction, you can see 970 feet. 900, almost 1,000 feet. We do have a stop sign in the eastbound direction. Let's go to Morrison Avenue and Orchard now. Orchard and Morrison, looking westbound, you can see 850 feet. Obviously, it's a lot. We do not have a stop sign. It's good. Orchard, looking towards Silas Dean Highway in the eastbound, we can see 290 feet. That's why Mr. Powers has said that we do need a stop sign. Now, keep in mind that as you look toward the east, the grade is coming up. So 290 feet, it's pretty good, especially when the grade is going up, because if somebody has to stop, it's going to be easier to stop. The town has also taken a sight distance from Tifton. This was before the construction, by the way. Approaching Morrison Avenue from Tifton, looking west, at that before the construction, you could see 340 feet. I complained. I says, wait a minute, you guys have taken the site distance. It's no longer there. You have moved the road. Subsequent to that, they retook the measurements, and they came up with 232 feet. That's all you can see now, you know. When you come out of Tifton, you look west, you can see 232 feet. And in that vicinity, again, now the grade is going down. So if you're going, the 85th percentile, it goes 31 miles per hour. The posted speed is 25. Now, 85th percentile, 31 miles per hour. That means that 15% of the cars go higher than 31 miles per hour. And yet, they tell me that I don't need a stop sign. I do not understand. If you do need a stop sign and you can see 290 feet, is it 290? Don't you think that you need a stop sign for 232 feet? Now, what did I say before? I guess, you know, either you are not listening or you don't care. I like to think that you're not listening because probably I'm registered as an independent. And wow, when I look up there is either the Republicans or the Democrats. And what I also observed over the years that for every major vote that you take, it's always split between the Republican and the Democrat. And there I think it's sad, to believe that every time we have a big decision to make or a vote, it's right in the middle. I wonder if people vote for what's good for the residents or what's good for the party. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Lee.
I want to line up to talk to both people and council. Lee Seekis, 117 Wells Road. I'm here for a couple of reasons. One was the recent primary we had a week ago, tomorrow, I guess. Not that there's anything wrong with primaries, but I think they can be done much more economically for the town because it is the taxpayers who pay, even though party members get to vote. So the people who are independent, like Gus and other people, I've been in both parties, so I could take part in primaries. But to be unable to take part in it and it costing tax dollars, that's wrong to a degree. But the thing of it is, if it is costing tax dollars, and that's what the law calls for, why can't we have it done more economically? They knew it was going to be a low turnout. It was a situation where there was, I believe, only one ballot, not 3 or 4 ballots like we've had in the past when there were different districts in town, different candidates for Senate and House. Why couldn't they merge 2 or 3 districts to vote? Or even or everybody voted in one district, at the, like community center, and save money. Money's the bottom line, and don't forget, the easiest money to spend is somebody else's money. Now, if you had to pay for it out of your own pocket, I bet you would, do it economically. Money is another thing that is a factor in the concerts that we have had in town. Let's go to the one at Millwoods Park a week and a half ago. A lot of people, a popular band. Compare that to the freebies we've had on Main Street, the Keeney Coolers. I would say there were at least 3 or 4 times the people at Millwoods Park than at Main Street. And maybe it's done at Main Street for the businessmen to have some clientele. But if you went back to the motor vehicle, or to the Red Barn, or maybe to the Millwoods Park, you would have more people, get more of your dollars worth for the money spent, than the way it's done right now. Another issue that I want to talk about is an old issue is businesses with a single step, that change hands being ramped so they could be handicap friendly. From what I understand, talking to the people at Florist Store on Session Highway, that building will stay as is with a single step. They're grandfathered safe. Now, I have said for well over 10, 15 years at least, to several different councils and mayors, it's not a major renovation of the whole building, but a single step, why not do it for the people, the customers? Are you just trying to satisfy the business owners? Now, I was told by somebody at the Benetti Florist it would take 22 feet according to the town, so it would have to be like a long LU-shaped ramp. But it is feasible. And looking at the agenda for tonight, you're talking about money for a ramp at in Old Wethersfield at the restaurant. Now, that's an older building. They could be grandfathered safe too. And if we're going to be paying for that out of our tax dollars, why can't that be grandfathered? I think that businessman himself just wants somebody to pay the bill. Because I've been in that restaurant a couple of times. I've eaten outside once. And after all, who are we for? The people, the party, or the businessmen? The thing with it is, us people, independents, Democrats, Republicans, want things to go smooth for everybody. We want the most out of our dollars because things are economically a little tighter than we would like them to be. And that's basically it. I thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Others wishing to speak? Go ahead.
Good evening, Doreen C. Arcia, 36 Spring Street. I am the chair of the Wethersfield Library Board, and I am speaking to you tonight in that capacity. And on behalf of the Library Board, as you all know, we have recently completed a search for a director upon the retirement of Laurel Goodgen, and I'm happy to introduce to you tonight Brooke Berry, who is sitting there in the aqua, who just waved to you. Brooke was most recently at the New York Public Library, the Mid-Manhattan branch, as the manager of information and circulation services. And she has, within the last 2 weeks, made the transition to Wethersfield. We are thrilled to have her here. And one of the things that really impressed the board most, among many things, was the research and knowledge she did about Wethersfield. She, not only the things you can find out readily, the history, et cetera, but recent events. I mean, I think she knows more about the Corn Fest, for instance, than I do, which is great, because she'll be there all day. In other things, the 375th parade that she, in her presentation, included. So she really took pains to learn about Wethersfield and about our community. She also has great knowledge of any event, fall event in town. If anyone wants to know when the book sale is for the Friends of the Library, Brooke's got that down, among other things. So she's really taken great pains to learn about our town and to become a part of it. So on behalf of the Library Board, we're very happy to have her here. We will be having a reception for her, for the public and everyone to meet her sometime in the fall, date TBD, but late September, early October, and we'll let you know when we know that date. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doreen. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, council people, Steve Kelly, 29 Old Smithy Lane. I'm here to address an issue that's close to a lot of people, and I just think it's something that fell by the wayside with the high school renovation. I had made sure, I had talked to some people, and I made sure, I said, whatever you do, I know the entrance is going to be redone, save our archway. 40 years ago, we put that up after we named the field after Joe Catone, who was a longtime football coach there. And I was sitting on the council when that got done. And then we wanted to dress it up, so we put the archway up either the end of '74 or the beginning of '75. So the archway was saved, and I was assured it was going back up, and then I received a phone call and also heard through the grapevine that, well, that might not be so, but they're looking at some place where we could put it. And I said, well, that's not really acceptable. I said, and one thing you can notice through the picture, we had to work with the existing fence. So when you came down the hillside there, you really didn't see the entryway and you didn't see the archway. You had to come down and then you had to make a right-hand turn. So you really wouldn't notice it. But if you look at that picture that I took today when the guys were doing the brickwork there, that's really going to be a knockout, because you're going to be coming down and now you'll see it silhouetted against the open sky. Now, the only problem is, obviously, the new opening is wider. But I did bump into the guy who's ramrodding the job for O&G. Wasn't that hard. I walked by his door, so he happened to be walking out. And I asked him, I said, hey, do you guys have any welders around here? And he goes, yeah, why? And I said, well, it's about our archway. And he knew all about it. He said, oh, yeah, I've heard. He said, we've heard about that. And he was very positive that they could just increase the size of the brackets, the base of the brackets that hold it on, weld onto that, and fit it onto this. I have a guy, the fellow down on the left-hand corner, all dressed up, that didn't look like he was doing much work. I have him painting that now. So he's sanding it down and he's painting it. 40 years later, he felt guilty. And he's your, your assistant harbor master, so he's doing a great job. It will look very nice. I know the building committee's aware of it, and a couple of the council guys are, but this is one of the things I wanted you all to know about it, so, I hate to see one of those things, gee, I wish we knew about it, type things. And, so we're gonna have it painted, and it'll be ready to go, and I hope you guys will get behind us, because you're the guys that end up taking the blame. They never blame the building committee. So with that, I hope, the two pictures are worth 1,000 words apiece. So I think they'll speak for themselves. And I talked to the Masons, and I said, you're not putting anything on the top yet, are you? And he goes, no, not today. I said, okay, good. So, they're not capping anything yet, but something is going to go there. So I'm hoping that you guys can intercede on our behalf. And I got a couple minutes left. I might as well jump to the next one. The baseball diamond, obviously we didn't get to use it this year, and I'm the head of the Boosters Club. I just haven't had the good sense to leave it yet after my grandson graduated. And I also head up Wethersfield Senior Baseball, which uses that field. So we didn't get to use it this year. It wasn't a big deal for our summer league, but I think the high school kids really missed out on it. We're worried that if work isn't done this fall, that field won't be usable again. What happened is when they were doing over the refreshment stand bathroom, that's where all the irrigation, the automatic irrigation that was installed was, and that got disconnected. So the field, although the town kept up with mowing and as best they could, never got watered. So if you recall the movie The Grapes of Wrath, it was like a dust bowl going through there. We have clay bricks were installed on the pitching mound and around home plate area, so you wouldn't be guys digging in all the time. And those are exposed now. So we definitely have a problem there. I know the logistics that the field hockey team practices out in the outfield, but if attention could get paid to the infield at any rate, I'd hate to see these kids not get to use it again next year. They understood what was going on this year. And one last thing, talking about the tennis courts, because we did play a lot up at Webb. The way that's situated, it's not so severe at Stillman, but there are a lot of foul balls going to those tennis courts. So if you are going to do them, I don't know how high a net you could put up there on the side, because, you know, they'll be ducking for some reason. It's like they hone in there, you know? That's it, time up? All right,
Thank you, Steve.
you have to know when to leave. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Anyone else wishing to speak, public? Mr. Young?
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. Seems like a long time since I've been up here. I guess it's just because it's summer. But anyway, there was an article in the paper a month ago regarding the town settles the suit against Motorola. In reading that back then as well as now, you know, you allege that Motorola sold you a defective emergency service radio system. And under your agreement, the town will receive a $42,500 credit towards maintenance costs. I know there's more to this article. There's been a lot of talk, and you ended up buying another new system. But I still come back to the fact that after we've spent numerous millions of dollars to install that system 10 years ago, and we're still making payments for the next 8 more years or whatever it is, because it was put on a 20-year bond, if we all remember correctly. And now we're going to be buying another new system, which is going to cost us, what, around 6 or 7 million in total, with all the spare part, the million-plus spare parts that we're going to get for a brand-new system, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why would you buy some kind of a system there with all these spare parts? You expect it's a piece of garbage? You're paying $5-6 million for the whole system, and then another million plus for parts? No sense whatsoever. Why would you buy the thing? And as you read this article, and just all we're going to get is $42,500 as a credit towards maintenance costs on a system that's going out. We either must owe them a lot of money, and we're going to attach that 42 back as a credit. I don't know. But it doesn't make much sense. But what does make sense is what I've been saying over the years, that this system wasn't bad. If all you got was $42,000 credit, you didn't make out. You didn't get your point across. What you were putting across didn't hold any water. And how much did this cost? I know in the article, the newspaper man asked, how much did this cost? I don't know if that's on the website yet, but I think for the sake of transparency, we should put that up on the website so everybody can see it. We do know that ethics commission problem that we had with Stacy Hodges cost us, what, $634,000. That's not on the website, and it should be on there so people can see it. But this has been going on for 8 years or what? How many years? Stacy was only a couple, short year or two. It cost us $600 and some thousand. What did this cost us? And all we got back was so little. And now we're also, to compound the insult to the citizens of this town, we're going to pay another, like I said, X amount of dollars, $6 million for a new system and the spare parts and everything else that goes with it. It's crazy. No wonder nobody comes here. And then, of course, who is our lawyers? The last time I was in this council chamber, we had a lawyer up here talking about something. I forget what he was talking about, but he was the same lawyer that was working on this case. And what does that lawyer say? Oh, it was a complicated process. That's what lawyers tell their clients when they fail. And when the lawyer takes the client down the wrong path, that's more what he says. Oh, it was a complicated case, and this is all you're going to get. And this lawyer, he's with this company called Rome McGuire. The same law firm that Jack Bradley, who you praised as an attorney. I mean, who the hell would hire Jack Bradley for anything? Or this guy, Morris. I mean, this is all he got for us? For all those years, and how many dollars did we spend to get $42,500 plus push us to the brink of buying a new system? Terrible, just terrible. And we bought the system in 2003. Ray Ann, our prior assistant to the manager, said there was 100,000 Motorola 800 systems out across the world, and only Wethersfield didn't work. I find that pretty hard to believe. I find it hard to believe when she said it back then, and I still do. So anyway, it's just another bunch of incompetent people that you people hired to do a job. The not incompetent person probably should have told you up front, don't even go forward with it. Don't spend the money. Because obviously $42,000 tells me there wasn't a heck of a lot wrong with that system. So anyway, folks, I don't know how you can talk your way out of it. Anyway, it's good to see the state of Connecticut has started to improve on their unemployment situation. It's good to read that in the paper. The sad thing is, out of the 4,700 people over this last year that got hired in the state of Connecticut, 200 of them, only 200 of them came from all the other counties except the Gold Coast, which means the Gold Coast got all the hires. We only got 200 between Litchfield down to New London. That doesn't say a lot. This is the policies of our leadership up in Hartford. And it's definitely the leadership here to keep taxing and taxing and taxing. You chase people out. And the only ones that will come here are those that accept millions from the state of Connecticut to come here. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Do you have anyone wishing to speak this evening? Public comment? Seeing none, we will move on to council reports. Should we entertain a motion to add that now or wait? I should entertain a motion to add an additional agenda item. Somebody do that, please.
Make a motion to add an additional agenda item concerning digital in-car video system.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Council reports.
I was at the building committee meeting last Monday. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts with the project. I know Mr. Delaripa's out here as well, I'm sure, to answer questions if there are any questions. But many moving parts. We're going to have a tour of the building, I believe, this Thursday for the council members, and we can see exactly where the progress is. But certainly, there's a lot going on, a lot of things that have to come into place for the school opening. And as far as we know at this point, things are moving as expected for the school opening, and certainly O&G has been advised to let anyone know if there are any issues that come up at crunch time here. But they're aware that it needs to be done, and obviously that school is fast approaching. So that's it.
Thank you, Steve. Tony?
Last week, I was at the Economic Development Commission meeting. The subcommittee has finished their final draft of the facade loan program policy, which they gave all the members last meeting to look at. And at the next meeting, they'll go through it in more detail and probably pass it, and then forward it on to the manager for legal review, and then forwarding for council to acceptance. So that's in the works, and it should be done soon. Peter did tell us some good news. We've gotten a few new businesses into town. Rim and Roll was moved into the space Wooden Toy was in. They moved further down into the plaza on Gulfbrook, and this firm moved in there. Karate School has moved into the space underneath the corner store across from Town Hall. Dog Groomer is moving into space on the Berlin Turnpike. And Dance 10 Studios is expanding to take over space next to its current next door, so they're widening out and taking over that whole building. And there's a new Japanese hibachi coming into the space where Wells Tavern was, so some of our places are starting to fill up, which is good news.
Thank you, Tony. Any other council reports? Council comments? Mike?
Just want to comment on what Steve Kelly said about the building committee, and if they are going to put the arch up there. I mean, it would be nice to have that arch back. It's been up there for many years. I think it is I don't think people do realize that it's not going back up. I think people thought that that arch would be up there. It's a small thing, but I think it means a lot to people.
You know what, I don't know what the status is, but certainly it's been heard, and yeah, you know, I agree with you. I think it's something that does not seem like a big deal. That
Well, before they do something, maybe tomorrow, maybe somebody could talk to somebody.
Agreed.
very good.
Jeff?
I just want to welcome Brooke to town. I look forward to working with you on the library committee.
I just want to echo what Mike said about that archway. I think it'd be a shame if it's not put up. I think everybody expected it, so let's make it happen. So since Steve is the liaison, maybe you can send that message.
I will certainly convey that sentiment.
Thanks.
Mr. Town Manager?
I really don't have anything other than the arch. We'll work on the arch. And on the field that was going to be ready for next season, we are prepping it for the field hockey season. We know we've got significant work to do on it. It's been dug up and traversed repeatedly during the construction, so we knew going into next season we had quite a bit of work to do. We spent our resources on fields that were in use this year, but over the past week, we've reseeded it, and we'll be getting it ready for the field hockey season. It'll be ready next spring.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you following up on it. I know it's an important topic for folks out there. Dolores, anything?
No.
Okay, we're going to move into council action. So we'll start out with acceptance of resignations. I think Donna.
Was it Steve?
Actually,
I'm sorry.
those are mine. Resignations from the Tourism Committee. Shireen Aforismo, 185 Broad Street, as of 8/6/2014. From Parks and Recreation, Peter Silbo, 59 Apple Hill, and the term was 7/21/2014 to 7/23/2014. And then from Planning and Zoning, Bazia Della Ripa, 37 Robbinswood Drive, 7/21/2014 to 7/22/2014.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And appointments, Steve?
Move to appoint to Parks and Recreation Daniel Silbo, 59 Apple Hill Road, from 8/18/2014 to 6/30/2017.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. And now Donna, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Appointments for the Wethersfield Housing Authority, Michael S. Ronov, 16 Fairmont Street. The term is incorrect in the agenda. It is 9/1/14 through 8/31/2019. And to the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, Christine Taylor as the town employee, 8/18/2014 to 6/30/2016.
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, and we will move to, there's no unfinished business, so we'll move to other business. 3A, the Westfield High School renovation project change order.
Motion to approve proposed change order number 64 for $22,608.89 for Ferguson Electric.
Second.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. All change orders over $20,000 have to come to the council. We have a change order this evening for electricity to the Catone Field concession stand during the renovation project. The existing underground utilities, and Frank can answer this as well as I can, were very shallow underground, so those had to be removed and reinstalled per code, and that's the cost of doing this, to get power out to the concession stand.
Questions about this? Go ahead, Don.
I emailed Jeff today. I had a number of questions. First off, when was the concession stand built at the high school? Who oversaw that construction? And why was the electrical not up to code? And Jeff did talk about, he did respond to that today. And it looks like it was changed from a line coming in via pole to underground, but we don't have the, he doesn't have any of the specifics about why it was not up to code, and where were our town inspectors? So those were my questions.
It was built in 1982 with overhead power, and at some point, the power went underground. I just didn't have an opportunity to find out that when that happened today. So, if anybody out there probably knows more about this field than I do. So, anybody know when we put underground power in? I don't know. So, but there is rock ledge along that field, so imagine they just laid the power cables on top of the rock rather than excavating the rock, and that's.
But if I may, Mr. Mayor, if the code hasn't changed at all, I still go back to where were the town inspectors in wrapping that up, because if it was out of code now, it was out of code then. So that's a big concern.
Thank you, Don. I agree. I assume, Jeff, you'll probably, at a later point, once you have a chance to go through maybe some of the files and talk to the school system about it, maybe we can dig out some paperwork to determine what happened there and report back in some form to us.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Questions about this change order itself and obviously the correction that has to be done?
This is approved, what, when would the work be completed? Maybe before season starts?
Do we know when this can get done? This will be an ASAP thing to get that ready, right? Yeah. So as soon as possible.
So before.
They're just waiting on us.
There won't be any impact on, you're probably asking, there won't be impact on concession stands this fall. This will be corrected before we have the season, correct?
So the plan is to get this work done as soon as possible, so we can feed that concession stand this fall.
And there is the jamboree is
So,
there.
well, yeah, would that be completed prior to the?
The 6th?
Yeah, the 6th.
No idea. Will it be,
So-
were they talking about getting it done before the 6th?
Of September?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And if I could, this is somewhat related but unrelated. You were mentioning the field before, and I wasn't sure which field you were talking about.
The high school baseball field?
Okay, not the Chico field.
No.
Okay, so that would be ready by the 6th as well.
I don't know where we are with that
Okay.
field.
Frank, you're here. You gotta come up and have a little, get your moment in the light.
Frank Delaripa, 37 Robbinswood Drive. I'll answer any questions you have regarding this change order, or other questions regarding the high school renovation, which is like a second job, by the way.
And Sally's also here. She can probably answer questions on the fields as well, so. What's the goal for Chico?
Excuse me, people can't hear if you don't come up to the mic.
The inside of DeChico right now is playable, and they're gonna be using it for the beginning of school activities. And right now, there's a lot of work that has to be done on the track. So we are preparing the track to be resurfaced, but they can still get and use the fields in accordance with the way Mike Maltesi from the Board of Ed wants to be able to schedule the preschool athletic activities in that location.
Thank you. And my understanding from the meetings also was that certainly the JV soccer, which is usually played there, that field will be available, but I think it goes offline
Goes off
mid-October to the end of October,
mid-October, yes.
and that's when the track will be resurfaced.
Okay.
So up until then, but that was my, and again, it's my memory of the timeline, at least as of a week ago.
Because the track resurfacing is a two-part process. There is the asphalt, they have to take up the track, then lay an asphalt part of the track, which is kind of the foundation of it. Then they do what we consider the track surface overlay, which takes a significant amount of time to cure properly. And it's really very important that no one walks on that track or is on that track while that surface is curing. And so they've been able to work with the Board of Ed, Department of Athletics, to schedule activities to work around the needs of the athletics department and the needs to stay on schedule for the construction.
I know this question came up, Sally, on that too, as a follow-up, that there was a concern about public access to the track after the first surface is done, and then the second, and regardless of the scheduled events, which the school has control of, obviously, but there's a lot of public access there. Has there thought been given to how to ensure that that is actually not walked on by outside members of the community who may not even know? I mean, it's
Right.
fenced, but
There's been a lot of discussion with the building committee about how we're going to do that, because it really is very important for safety of the people walking on the track and also for the track surfaces to be able to cure. Right now, the building committee is still working through what's the best way to deal with it.
We really don't want to spend any big dollars to keep people off the track. We're hoping signage. I recommended a big dog chained in the center, but no, we don't want to spend a lot of money to keep people out. Just hopefully just signage.
And that hopefully will get the word out, that it really is very important that while it is the norm for people to use it, that during this time, they really change the way that they do their athletic activities so that we can get this done.
might have to get some public service assistance from the Current or something. Chris?
Be put up on the town website.
Yeah, the town website for sure, but get it out there. Because that's a fairly significant project that could be harmed, obviously, if it's not, okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second in front of us with respect to this change order on the power. Any further discussion? Move the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Thank you. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Frank. We have value engineering deductions, item 3B.
Motion to approve the following value engineering change order contract reductions for the Wethersfield High School renovation project. A, proposed change order number 53 in the reduction amount of $183,945 to the HVAC contract. B, proposed change order number 54 in the reduction amount of $317,115 to the aluminum window / entrance contract. C, proposed change order number 55 and a reduction amount of $188,009 to the general trades contract. D, proposed change order number 56 and the reduction amount of $328,447 to the roofing contract. E, proposed change order number 57 and the reduction amount of $102,892 to the acoustical contract. F, proposed contract change order number 58 in the reduction amount of $650 to the structural steel contract. G, proposed change order number 60 in the reduction amount of $8,000 to the concrete contract. And H, proposed change order number 63 in the reduction amount of $61,395.05 to the HVAC contract.
Second.
Thank you. Jeff, can you take us through, I know these are all changes with reductions in the cost to stay within the original plan, but go ahead.
Yes, these are, we discussed these before the first of the year, and as we proceeded through the spring to refine the numbers, these are the reductions in each of the trade contracts. You can look at the following chart on the page and how you can see the ones you've already accepted, and then these this evening. I think there's one or two more to come in to complete the value engineering deduction, which would get us to the new budget of roughly $84 million as a total project. And once that's done, we'll publish a new overall project budget that'll show the $84 million total with the true contract amounts.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions about any of those changes? I know we discussed them earlier in the year.
Just a quick one on one of the HVAC ones, that's change order 63. It refers to changing and revising the piping hangers for all piping outside the mechanical room to be non-spring loaded. The amount, so what does that impact do to safety, long-term durability of the project? I don't.
Nothing.
What's that change?
It's just a less expensive way to hang them,
That's it, okay.
I think. And anything different than that, Frank, on those hangers?
Yeah.
I asked that question quite a bit, because on all these VE issues, you wanted to make sure we weren't sacrificing any quality. And apparently on those hangars, which are very, very expensive, you don't need them in the mechanical room because students aren't near the mechanical room, so they're not going to hear any vibrations or any noise. So that's why they were eliminated there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second with respect to the change orders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Moving to B3B.
Motion to authorize the town manager to enter a new lease purchase schedule under the existing master lease agreement with First Niagara Bank for the financing of the purchase of rolling stock included in the fiscal year 2015 CNEF budget.
Second.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Our Finance Director, Mike O'Neill, has reviewed lease terms with several banks and is recommending we approve the lease with First Niagara. Basically, the all-in cost, when we look at reviewing the lease documents and the legal fees associated with creating a new master lease document with another vendor, negated any savings we would get on the fractional interest rate differential. So he's recommending we stay with First Niagara and use their quote.
Thank you. Any questions about this? Jeff?
Jeff, you indicated that we're saving legal fees, which more than outweighs the $550. I mean, I assume we're talking about probably thousands of dollars of legal fees to review a new lease arrangement with a new bank. Is that basically the?
At least the delta between the two. It depends on the documents that were submitted by what would be the Bank of America and how different they are from what we would accept.
Okay.
But at least the delta.
Okay. Thank you.
See no other questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. B3C.
Motion to approve $13,500 for the town share of the bus shelter program and authorize the town manager to sign the agreement between HNS Management, Connecticut Transit, and the town of Wethersfield for transit passenger waiting shelters.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Earlier this year, we brought to you the bus shelter project. Denise Bradley's here this evening to answer any specific questions, but it's been a decade in the making. CROG has tried to put together a bus shelter program with CT Transit that would provide shelters for, of course, the users of the system, but also alleviate the maintenance and upkeep responsibilities of the municipalities in which they're located. And by this program, advertising will be sold on certain shelters, not all of them, in residential areas and in other sensitive locations, advertising will be sold. But the advertising will pay for the maintenance and upkeep, emptying the trash, clearing the snow, and general maintenance of the shelter. The town's commitment is $13,500, and at our last meeting where we discussed this, staff told the council we would bring back the amount of our payment for final approval. There is money left over in the 2014 budget and planning and development we would anticipate using towards this if the council sees fit to approve it. And again, Denise is here to answer any specific questions. It's been through P&Z. Everything's approved, just waiting for the council to act.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions about this from council? Mike?
I think we discussed this, but the town has an agreement with them about what advertising can go into the shelters?
There is limitations on what kind of advertising can go.
And it's limited to the locations that are not in the residential section,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
I think that's important. Other questions?
Where are the two locations that are not currently being replaced or formerly locations?
Denise, do you have that? Can you come up to the podium, please?
Denise Bradley, Assistant Planner. The two new locations are in front of the former Weight Watchers and Wing Site facility on the Silestein Highway. The other is located at 55 Town Line Road.
Across from Stop and Shop, where the carts seem to congregate.
Right.
Yeah.
Have the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Have the property owners, those two property owners agreed to the new locations? Wouldn't it be stipulated upon the agreement of the property owner and?
Yes, we are speaking with them currently.
And then I just had one quick question, going back to the advertising. Who receives the advertising funds? Is it DOT or would the town?
It's the Connecticut Transit.
Because they maintain.
They
They'll
maintain.
maintain, so they have a budget to maintain these shelters through the year, so it's through their area.
Right, thank you.
Other questions from council? Denise, thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming. A motion in front of us, rather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. B3D.
Motion to authorize the town manager to sign an agreement with ProAct Incorporated for the provision of a discount prescription drug program.
Second.
Thank you. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The Connecticut Conference of Municipalities has entered into a partnership with ProAct for the offering of a discount drug program for drugs or people that don't have a medical prescription plan. You can use this card against drugs that aren't otherwise qualified or certain eye care, LASIK surgeries and so forth against participating providers. It's free. If this is approved, the town will receive cards that we can issue to residents who can use the card to get drugs that aren't otherwise covered if the pharmacy is participating. CCM has great success with this. The towns that are in the program find it very easy to use. I've seen these across the country. They're nice to have for residents who may have some spotty health insurance or want some additional services. So it's a nice to have for their residents.
Thank you, Jeff.
And there's no cost to the town.
We had it go through, obviously, legal counsel for advice, because the agreement calls for several provisions. It's been, I think, maybe 4 months or so to get this in the works. Several towns have already enacted it successfully. There's been some good stories publicly about it among the towns, and it's a service, obviously, that many of our residents will certainly have the opportunity to take advantage of. So we've obviously supported this behind the scenes to get it done. It took a little time, but I'm glad to see it's finally surfaced. Questions about this? Jeff?
Jeff, how will residents find out about this?
We'll work with CCM to develop the educational materials and the public information campaign materials. And once it's done, websites, through our programs, you know, we'll have to work on how to get it out there.
Like social services and so forth?
Library.
Health district.
Library, Health district, yeah.
Okay.
I know
And
the Current's
do-
gonna do an article on it.
Yeah.
Do we know how many towns have already started up with that? And,
Not particularly, I know there's more than half a dozen or so that are doing it.
okay. And do you have to be a CCM member town to be able to participate in
I
this?
believe so.
Yes.
Okay.
I think 17 towns had it as of fall when we did it previously in
Oh.
place.
Thanks.
Other questions about it? Jeff?
Oh,
Stoughton?
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Are there other competitors to ProAct that they've used in the past? I mean, what other towns first are using it nearby us?
Avon, Farmington, and Shelton are the three that I know. I looked at their agreement when this first got brought forward to look at, local to us.
So how do we know that our residents are going to be getting the best price for these prescription drugs that they may be able to get elsewhere, AARP or?
Well, they can still use their other service provider, but if all else fails, show them this and maybe there's a benefit.
So what's the benefit to the town if we can't guarantee that they're going to get the best price using this?
Well, we're not engaging in a prescription drug buying program. We're offering a discount card for participating pharmacies for people that don't have prescription drug coverage, or the LASIK and the dental coverage, which they may not have. So this has been vetted through CCM. We could probably wage our own RFP process, but why do that when someone else has already done it for us?
But
Yeah.
CCM did do a bid on this original. I think it's been in about 3 years that they did it. So I think there were 12 participants in the original bid process that CCM did, and it gets renewed, I think, on a biannual basis with them. So they go through that process. My understanding from talking with the CCM rep when we first saw this back in the fall was that most of the users who signed up after the advertising found that they got additional discounts beyond their current program, so there wasn't any downside to it. There's no risk, certainly, and there's no cost to the town, but based on what CCM said about the number of users that participated in the bid process, ProAct obviously was selected, and I think, again, it's probably gonna come up for review again this fall, because it's been in place for a couple of years with ProAct, so. And that renewal process, when it's done, would immediately go into place with this program.
I mean, I guess I'd support it to see how it goes, but what I'm worried about is that we run into the same problem we did when we tried to do this energy savings for residents, and that ended up not working out so well, because we started fielding calls and issues that they weren't getting the rate they were supposed to get. It wasn't the best rate. So that's the only concern I have. So I think whatever messaging goes out, if we're gonna approve this, that it should be made clear that this has no relation to the town other than we're piggybacking on CCM's vendor. So I still have some reservations about this.
No, I think that's a good question, and I think the one distinction that I might point out is that under the energy program, people were asked to sign up for a particular vendor who was offering an energy rate that changed. I think where that problem started to happen, that rate changed at some point down the road, and then they could opt out, but there was, I think, in the part of the participants, a concern about they signed up for a certain rate, then it went up after a year, then they had to get out and find another vendor. Difference with this is a discount card that is above and beyond current coverages that residents may have through any program. And the discount is, from what I understand from talking with Avon about it, is I think most of the major pharmaceutical companies that are represented in town, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, all accept this card in addition to coverages that someone may have. So there isn't any, I'm buying in and hopefully getting a better rate. It's a discount applied to a current program. So hopefully it's fairly seamless. And again, the feedback from the other towns was very positive, that there were no surprises, and it's a program that I think CCM is offering to offer something to our residents in town. That's kind of a feel-good program, that's particularly in light of the cost of healthcare. So,
Paul, quick question. If the CCM goes out to bid, and let's say a couple of years from now, they go out to bid, and it turns out some other provider other than ProAct gets it. This may not be a question you can answer, but do you think, would people who have already signed up for it and enjoying the program be sort of automatically transferred into the new program? I mean, that's an what-if
Yeah, I think it's
question,
a
but
good question. I don't know the answer. I would think that the cards that people receive once they sign up for it probably are dated, that they're, you know, good until expiration or something of that kind. But I think that's a great question to ask. And I suspect that when CCM, if it does go out to bid and were to award to a different vendor who's offering it, all new cards would be issued. But that's a good question. I certainly think we should get it answered.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
So, yeah, if I could follow up, because Jeff kind of brought something else to my mind. So let's say, or does the agreement require an exclusive agreement with ProAct? So let's say this gets out there and a competitor comes to us and says, we can offer the same, if not a better solution for your residents. What does the agreement say to that?
It doesn't bind us. If someone has that card, they can elect to use it, not use it. They can certainly get any other discounts that they might get, either through an employer. Because I did read through the legal agreement that Jeff sent up for review. So it's not a binding agreement and doesn't prevent them from using anybody else that comes along and says, oh, I've got a better.
Does it prevent us, though, as a town?
It does not.
If a competitor comes to the town and says, we want to offer the same product that'll be at least the same, if not better, we aren't bound by this agreement?
Doesn't have that restriction.
Okay, so then we'd be prepared to accept that if a competitor comes.
Yeah, I think the only thing they asked the town to do, in a sense, because it's CCM, is to help advertise by virtue of allowing us to use. The town of Wethersfield supports this program. It's a CCM supported, but again, we're not bound. There's no cost to us. There's no legal obligation for us to be sure that residents take it. I mean, it's completely voluntary. I think it is pretty much as you see it. There's no like surprise, how high I got you kind of thing. Having read it carefully, and again, talking to two of the towns back some time ago, you know, there's so many different things that are out there that people can, this one is very clean, very straightforward. I think CCM is looking to give residents in town a additional potential discount card that they can use at participating pharmaceuticals, but there's no risk to do it. There's no preventing them using anybody else. It's not like they're signing a contract. They're simply.
No, I get it.
It's almost like, you know, when I think you get that Eagle discount card that I think the athletic department does. You can use it, not use it. There's no risk.
No, I get it. But if somebody does come to us and says they have that, are we prepared to accept that as well and offer an alternative to residents if they want it?
I think for my part answer, I'd look at it the same as I looked at this. Looks pretty straightforward. Would be no reason why we wouldn't.
Okay, all right.
I think we should pick one. I'd rather have multiple programs out there. We ought to pick a horse and ride it.
Yeah.
If it's this one, it's this one. If it's another one, it's another one.
Well, I think we are saying it based on our commitment to this, that we're gonna jump aboard this one. But I suspect that anybody else that might be out there offering programs probably participated in the CCM bid, and this one has prevailed, so I imagine it's probably the most competitive.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Good. Other questions, thoughts? Mike?
Quick one. How long has the town of Avon had this prescription drug discount card?
They started in the late 11, just before the start of 12, when I talked to them.
Right, thank
Year
you.
and a half. Questions, thoughts? Okay, we have a motion and a second in front of us for this program. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay.
Motion to authorize the acceptance of the 2014 High Visibility Grant from the Connecticut Department of Transportation.
Second.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, Chief Satrans here this evening to answer any questions, but this is a grant from DOT for distracted driving enforcement, so I'll ask the chief to go over that.
Good evening.
Chief, how are
And I
you?
want to thank you for what you said about Dave Scales. That meant a lot to us in the police department.
Questions for the chief on this program?
I have one.
Mike?
Did we do this last year?
Not distracted driving, this is the first one. We've done DWI and seatbelts before, but we've never done distracted driving.
Do you know how well it's gone over in other towns that have done it?
But this is the first,
This is the first one
this
that
is the
all the
first,
towns and
yeah, for all,
everybody's doing it?
everybody, yes. You know, it's gone the way of seatbelts and DWI, where there's enough clamor about the distracted driving that, and the enforcement of that, the state has put out this grant. Of course, distracted driving is very dangerous, so we want to jump on board.
When will this start, Chief, if you do it?
It starts, I believe, I think it's October 1st? September 1st?
September 3rd?
September 3rd through the 24th.
Okay. I knew it was coming.
It's coming up quick. Don, I'm sorry.
We could have used that today, sitting out on the front porch tonight before dinner, and a gentleman drove by in a minivan, drove by the park with cars parked on the right side, and texting away.
Yes, I've seen it myself, and I actually stop cars myself and on a regular basis. It's a common occurrence, and until the enforcement catches up, people are going to do it. So this way, it's tough for an officer in patrol to handle that because, if you see it, then you try to get through traffic. You don't want to make a more dangerous situation even more dangerous by trying to chase down someone that you saw or might have seen with a cell phone in their hands or anything else for that matter. This will allow for us to do this on an overtime basis, and with two officers, one's a spotter and one is a person that would actually stop the vehicle. So it is a much better plan, a much better system. It really isn't too expensive for us either because of the fact that they actually include fringe benefits with this. So I think we were at like $3,500 if we went to max, and we'd get $3,000 of that back with fringe benefits. So it's really not a very expensive endeavor, and I think it's definitely worth it.
And it's that 3-week period?
Yes. Oh, I'm not sure how long it is. I shouldn't say that.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, starting September 3rd through the 24th. Yeah.
Back to school time.
Do we have, Chief, do we have any idea, or do you have any idea how many arrests there are over the course of a month or a year for
Oh, I
this
can
type?
get you that number. I mean, I would say it's not, a real significant number. Speeding is probably a higher number, but cell phone, because like I said, it's a tougher one to enforce. Speeding is relatively easy, especially with radars in the car and stuff like that, and laser. But this being dedicated to, the officers being dedicated to doing this should bring us in bigger numbers.
Okay. And will this be mostly on our major thoroughfares where we're gonna...
Yes, they're scheduled. There are actually spots that they're going to be doing this at, and there are where there's higher traffic of vehicles. Some of the secondary roads, like Knott Street, Prospect Street, and Wells Road are also targeted, not just Silestein and Berlin Turnpike. In fact, the Berlin Turnpike would be a little tough as they go by at 50 miles an hour. But yeah, those are secondary streets that will be targeted.
Thank you.
Mike?
I will say that the legislature, a year or maybe 2 years ago, increased the fines for distracted driving, texting, talking on the phone. The town will recoup a lot of the money, or a portion of the money, I would hope, from these fines, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Other questions? We have a motion and a second in front of us for the acceptance of the grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Chief, you might want to stay up because I think our next couple of items are coming right back to back for you. B4A.
Motion to approve the purchase of fitness equipment for the Wethersfield Police Department from Sorinex Exercise Equipment Company for $27,235.
Second?
Please.
The equipment that we have now is starting to get old, and there are some safety concerns that we have with the equipment. And also, I want to encourage the officers to use the equipment because the better shape that they're in, the less injuries and problems that we would have developed, like heart attacks and stuff like that, we maybe alleviate. So they had come to me, the officers, it's a morale issue also, came to me and asked me if we would purchase new equipment, and I agreed. They went through the bid process, they went out to bid, and when it came back, as with a lot of the bids, the people that were, or the companies that were bidding didn't bid on the specifications that were allotted for. So the one company that did, and the best cost, is the one that they asked for. And the cost is $27,235, and that money will come from the asset forfeiture account. So there's no budgeted money, no taxpayer money in this.
Questions for the chief on this?
How much do we have in that asset forfeiture account?
Right now, I've spent a lot. I mean, I have other projects that are coming through, but we had got, actually, I had a, well, that's the next, I think that's the next one, that's the in-car video. I had actually approved that one prior to getting a large asset forfeiture award a couple of months ago. That took us a long time to get the in-car video down to where we are today, which is hopefully we'll get there sooner. But and to answer your question, we're probably sitting a little over $1 million.
Okay, thank you.
But we still have some big plans. And like I said, these are things that we want, not things that we need, so.
Right.
Further questions on the fitness equipment proposal? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. And with respect to the added agenda item, I'm sure you can do that on the fly, Tony, go ahead.
Want that one now?
Yes, please, Wes, Chief's here.
Okay. Motion to approve the purchase of 8 digital in-car video systems from WatchGuard for $51,110.
Second.
Chief?
This, like I said, has been a project that's been in the works for a while. The technology has changed since we initially purchased the in-car video systems. The system that we have now, it is based on a DVD recording. And what has happened in the years that we've had these, the DVDs, although a lot better than the old VHS tapes, they still take up a lot of room. I mean, they have to be secured. They're in Lieutenant Power's office. There's 2,400 of them right now. He's getting to where he doesn't have much space to sit in anymore. And this system will eliminate that problem because it's actually a wireless automatic upload. When the cruiser pulls into the parking lot of the police station, it automatically will upload the video that was recorded on the system to a server seamlessly, automatically, no hands touch it whatsoever. There are a lot of other aspects to this new system that is better than what we had too. The second most important one is the fact that it's now HD. It's 720p, which will give us a much clearer picture, a much better sight and sound. Sound is also increased, which will help us. I can't tell you how important this in-car video is to us. I mean, we had a police-involved shooting prior to the system, and we've had one since the system. The one since the system was in place went through a lot smoother, faster, and easier for us to be justified than it would have been if not. I can only think of what would have occurred in Ferguson if maybe they had an in-car video system working at the time, because ours was not too much different, and yet we went through it pretty well because the video and audio clearly showed that the officer's life was in danger at the time of the shooting. So all of those aspects, plus the fact that we are purchasing this with asset forfeiture money, I'd like to go forward.
Questions for the chief on this?
Just a comment. Since this is asset forfeiture, you just said something before that I don't think you meant to say with the other one. Asset forfeiture, can you just give a quick overview? Because what you said before is we use it to get things that we want, we don't need. And I don't think that's what you meant to say. I think you meant to say we use this to get equipment we need that's not budgeted for or that we can't get through the town budget.
Right, well.
But just can you clarify that?
I try to clarify it, and it's an extreme oversimplification. If it's something that we need, it's something that we have to have, then it should come through the budget. Because there's a problem that you have with asset forfeiture money in what they call supplanting. And you can't supplant your budget with asset forfeiture money.
Right.
So if it was something, this is not something that is absolutely necessary in police work. Your gun is, your badge is, and perhaps a car to patrol, but in-car video is not an absolute necessity. That's what I meant by the fact that this is a want more than a need, but it's something that is extremely beneficial to us and the town as a whole. Because anything that could save us a lawsuit down the road could save us millions by spending this money now. I didn't mean that it wasn't something that we
Right.
needed, it's just, I meant that the difference between a want and a need, and the budget, that's all. Sorry.
No,
Hope
I
that
just wanted you to
clarified
clarify that, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, a couple of things. I think over the years, we've added cameras to police cruisers. Are they all outfitted now with cameras, or?
Well, no. That's why I increased it. We had 6. The main line cars have it. There are line cars that don't have it. And of course, if an officer goes from, if the car is down or something like that, then he's going to be taking a car without it. And that always, you know, it's like anything else. It's almost like your cell phone. I mean, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you didn't worry about going out of the house without your cell phone. Today you do. It's the same thing. Every time a car goes out there without one of these camera systems in it, I'm worried that something's going to happen and it's not going to get recorded. And that's, you know, there's so many other aspects of this too. I mean, I remember when I first became chief, we would get on an average of probably 2 or 3 nuisance type complaints a week. You know, the officer was rude to me, the officer did this, the officer did that. This has almost cut them completely out. And that takes up a lot of staff time when you're answering those type of complaints. I mean, you can go on and on about how important this is to us. It's not an absolute need, but it is something that it does enhance the operation greatly, in my opinion.
So we'll have 8, is it 8?
8. If I find that there are still cars, I mean, we have canine cars too, that are in addition to the district cars, and those are outfitted right now. But the more cameras that we get, the better off we are. And it is something I can readdress in the future, perhaps, if we do seem to need more.
Okay.
The supervisor's vehicle doesn't have one. And I'm trying to think, some of the spare cars don't have them, but all the line cars, the cars that usually go out every day, do.
Okay. All right. And just one, you
Will,
mentioned.
I should say, will.
Okay. You mentioned Ferguson earlier, and this is sort of a different topic, but there was something about, is there now a trend where the officers themselves are starting, in some places, are wearing cameras?
Well, there is another system. It's called, it's a body-worn camera.
Okay, then.
And I'm a little leery of that myself, in that you're talking, you know, now these people going into houses, and I don't. There just seems to be it seems to be a little bit more invasive to me than the in-car video, and it may be something that we need to address in the future. A lot of departments, I know Glastonbury's gone with all the body-worn cameras. Because there are other instances where an officer can get into having problems other than just being in the car. But the car seems to be the majority of the situations, especially motor vehicle stops and things like that. You know, accusations of racial profiling, accusations of a lot of other things, and this seems to eliminate most of that kind of activity. And there's another aside to this too, is the fact that when you know you're being recorded, you have a tendency to be nicer. So I think that this has actually helped us in that sense, and it maybe have reduced some of those rudeness complaints that we used to get. So there's so many different aspects of it that is really beneficial to us, and that's why this was one of the first big projects that I wanted to take on that we can enhance and move, you know, make it better.
Thank you.
Can you get a portable one in case you needed to put it in the spare, or they have to be mounted in the cars?
Right. The body-worn, it's a totally different system. Don't forget, too, though, our tasers have cameras on them. So when the taser comes out and is activated, that actually is recording both sight and sound. That's beneficial to us, too. And if an officer they have been trained that if it's a situation where they're, usually if they're drawing their taser, it's a pretty serious situation, and of course, that's when you're gonna get the recording. That helps, and that's beneficial too. The body-worn cameras, I'm just still a little leery of that right now, and it may be something that we can address in the future to see if it's better. And of course, now that we have Glastonbury using them, it might be able to tell from what they have and what goes on there. The microphone, the officer has the microphone on his lapel. And the old ones, once you got more than 100 feet away from the car, they didn't pick up anymore because they're wireless. The new system is much more powerful. It works on a different 2.4 megahertz or something like that, whatever that means, gigahertz, megahertz. What that does is it gives it a bigger range. So, and a lot of times the audio is beneficial to us too, not just the video. In fact, one of the police shootings that we had, it was the audio that really made the difference, because cameras pointed in one direction. It didn't pick up a lot of the video. It did pick up some, but it's the audio that was really powerful and effective in showing that the officer was justified in that shooting. So we still have the microphones.
Are these in-car cameras, are they mounted? I think Jerry might have been saying that.
Yes.
These ones in particular, so they're not portable?
No, they're not portable. No, you can't take them out of the cars. The cameras are smaller and more powerful, and the fact that they're HD, they actually sit behind the rear view mirror now, so it takes up less space and it's less obstruction for the officer in the viewing of that. But it's still there, mounted in the car, and it will be facing forward. It shouldn't face anywhere else.
Any other questions from council? Chief? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second in front of us for the approval of the replacement of the digital in-car video system. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Good. Motion passes. Thank you, Chief, for coming out on both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Motion to accept the bid from Plord Enterprise to include 2 alternates for the total contract amount of $54,000, and to replace the bituminous walkway for $11,500 and repair the parking lot for $6,500. Additional funding to be provided from the CIP reserve.
Second.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Sally Katz is here this evening to answer any specific questions, but as part of the current year budget, we included $62,000 in it to replace the ADA ramp at Standish House. It is a public building. We are subject to the ADA. It is non-compliant. It was built in 1984, and for whatever reason, it's not compliant. And in addition, we would like to repair the parking lot where the handicap parking takes place and repave the bituminous ramp to the base of the ramp so everything is fresh and clean and compliant. Again, Sally's here this evening to answer any questions. The HDC has approved it. We're going to use a Truex product, which is recycled wood. HDC approved that. Should have a longer life, and we're also amending the doorway in the back of the building too.
Yes, we
to
are.
accommodate.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions for Sally?
How long has this been on CIP?
This is the first year.
Okay. So it's leapfrogged over other projects that have been on there for years. Why is that? Because of the legal issues, potential
Yes.
legal issues?
We weren't aware it was non-compliant till it was brought to our attention, and then the building official, who is our ADA coordinator, verified that it was not compliant. And therefore, we decided to move on it to stave off any potential problems.
We've also been questioned by the state, once they became aware of it, that they know that it is not an ADA compliant ramp.
Yep. So at a infrastructure meeting, maybe 6 months ago in January, I think it was the last one we had, this was discussed, and I thought the outcome was that we weren't legally obligated to complete this work. Has that changed?
We met with the State Office of Disability Services, Handicap Services. They strongly recommended, they could not give us an edict to mandate it, but they strongly recommended that we change this ramp, that it is a known being out of compliance, and that it could potentially open us up for, it increases our liability. And short of telling us that we absolutely had to do it, they strongly recommended that we do it, as it is a public building and a known problem.
And so are we also then, by extension, legally obligated to pay for the work? If we're not legally obligated to actually complete it?
It's our building, it's our issue. We
Okay.
need to, and we need to rectify it.
So I guess we're leapfrogging over other projects. We're spending the budgeted amount. Then we're spending an additional, if I'm reading it right, an additional 10,000 from the CIP reserve. And are we afraid that we're gonna open up a can of worms on buildings that we aren't legally obligated to improve?
I don't believe
But
so.
we need-
Well, this is something that was brought to our attention that through a number of issues from patrons became very public and was brought to the attention of the state. It is, the ramp is known to be out of compliance. And so it's actually, I think, staving off additional problems that we could have in the future by doing this, by doing the work, by also doing the walkway. We know that we will have the appropriate grades, we have the handrails, we have the materials that are, and the design. We did go out to an architecture firm, we had it designed, their code compliance officer reviewed it. And so we know that by doing this work, we are stacking the deck in our favor to provide us with the best option that we can.
So for those reasons, I am gonna vote in favor of this, but I think this just underscores the issue that's been talked about by so many people, why we're putting money into a building that's ostensibly a private building, with a commercial use, and not truly a public building. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Jeff, just out of curiosity, we have one or two cases pending right now for falls there?
We have 2 claims.
Claims.
Whether or not they go anywhere, I don't know, but it's not uncommon to get claims.
Yeah, that happens regardless, right? That could happen obviously regardless of whether we do this or not as well. Somebody
Right.
could still fall here.
Right.
Reduces our risk a little, I assume, in your mind, Sally.
Yes, it does.
Well, and Karma will say that if
Right.
you're compliant and someone falls, there's a big difference being non-compliant and someone falls.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been an ongoing problem for sure.
I do have another follow-up if I could.
Go ahead, stop.
So now that we're going down this path, there's been discussions too about elevator access to the second floor to also increase compliance to access to a public building, right? So is that gonna be the next thing that's on our plate, that we're gonna have to pay for an elevator?
An elevator is not mandated by this. It is to gain access into the building. You don't have to, the way that it was described to us when we met with the state, you have to have access into the facility. You do not have to have unfettered access throughout the facility. And so the ability to have someone gain access to the first floor gives us the protection and the light that we have satisfied that requirement. We are not required to put in an elevator as we are to get people into the building.
All right, and I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate, but we're not legally obligated to do this. So I don't have a lot of confidence that we're not gonna have to do that.
The way that the statutes are currently written, we are not mandated to put in an elevator.
Okay.
Other questions, thoughts? Okay,
Just
go ahead, Mike.
to those claims, are the claims for the walkway, the ADA ramp?
Yes. There's at least one that I remember that happened on the ramp. Of course, the tenant's insurance will be primary, but we will back up everything that happens on that site.
And when you say the tenant, is it the tenant or the subleasee?
The subleasee.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second in front of us with respect to this project. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Sally, thank you for your work on that.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Motion to purchase two F-350 pickup trucks for $38,571 each from the state contract vendor.
Second.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Sally's here to answer any questions, but these two trucks were part of the fleet replacement program for the current year budget. We asked for a delay at the last meeting so we could do some more homework on these, and Sally is recommending these two trucks.
Questions for Sally?
What did you discover when doing your homework?
What we discovered was that one of the vehicles that we currently have, we can slightly alter to meet our needs. And so we did not have to go back and completely redo our program, by making that slight alteration, we can stay on track with what we want to do as far as our replacement schedule goes. We had held these out from the first vote just in case we needed to go and really rework it, but we don't have to.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Mike?
We're adding another truck to the fleet?
There is a net add because what we are doing in our normal replacement, we take two vehicles and we decommission them, sell them at auction, and we buy two new vehicles. What we have done this year is we approved, or thankfully to you, a position was changed. And so when we changed the classification of that position, it went from a position that basically shared a truck with another person to now being a specialized tradesman who needs a truck. And so instead of taking and decommissioning the two vehicles, we're only going to decommission one this year and utilize the truck that we would have decommissioned for that HVAC mechanic.
I guess I didn't realize when that position was done that we would now we have another truck in the fleet that we would have to kind of keep track of and then replace every whatever many
15 years.
Yeah.
It's because of the equipment that person needs to bring from site to site that they really do need to be able to do that in a vehicle.
What did we do before that person, like with the equipment?
We only had one HVAC technician, now we'll have two. And so an HVAC person in their truck has a number of different tools and supplies, and it's really something that in order to, when you go out to a job site, if you're working on a project, you don't want to stop, have to come back, or try to go to someplace. You want to be able to do a continuous work product. And so by having the truck there with the supplies, that person can continue to do the work. If they have a truck which does not allow them the capacity to bring those things to them, they're stopping work, they're leaving the job site, potentially coming back to the yard, try to get what they need, get back in their truck or vehicle, and go back out to the job site. So this helps the efficiency of work by being able to have the tools needed on site.
So in the past, that's what they were doing, driving all around town trying to get the parts?
No, we didn't have the.
We only had one HVAC person.
Right.
Got
Now
it.
we have two.
Yeah, I get that.
So the second one, we have to give him a truck. And that's what we're doing. But before, that was a maintainer position. They rode with someone else. And through vacancies, we've taken that position and reclassified it to an HVAC tradesperson, because that's where the need is,
Yes.
in the buildings.
And we're holding on to the older truck. That's what's the difference.
One of the older.
One of the older trucks.
As
The other
opposed
one
to
will
taking
be,
two out.
decommissioned and.
Yep.
and
How
taken
long,
out.
how long a life you expect with the retrofit on that, Sally, on the older one?
It doesn't have as many miles, and we're hoping to get a good 5 or 6 years out of it.
Thank you. Jeff?
It sounds like you have hired the second person, the second HVAC?
We are
or-
in the process of doing that.
Okay, all right. So maybe when we get to the budget, we can talk about, what you've accomplished by having the second person in, and whether, whether that was the right decision to hire that person and so forth. Because I assume if you had extra work beforehand, either it didn't get done or did you have to go outside?
Both. And that was what was the impetus for us to really take a look at what the structure is of the staff. And what we found was that there was, and still continues to be, we have an aging infrastructure in a lot of our buildings. And there are always calls for, because our HVAC person that we currently have on staff now is also our plumber. And so during the summer months, for example, they were trying to get the pools open, both pools, and deal with HVAC calls in every single building that we own. And just the amount of work that is out there that needs to be done, and I'm not talking projects, I'm talking regular maintenance work, is truly much more significant than for one person. It just is really undoable. And so we had to supplement that person with vendors and overtime. And it also became very difficult if that person was sick or on vacation. There was no backup. We had to go to an outside vendor. And those costs are very, very high.
Mm-hmm.
Mike?
I don't want to go down too far this tangent on the HVAC position, but would that new hire come with his own equipment, or would this town have to purchase?
We do purchase some things. We have found over the years that people who we hire have been in the field for a while. We do hire experienced people. They have brought tools with them that they use, but we do provide tools. We also have tools that we can outfit a truck with. We're not talking about spending thousands of dollars, bring in a new person and spend thousands of dollars outfitting it. That's not what we're talking about. We do very well with repurposing things.
Obviously. Thank you.
Other questions, thoughts? We have a motion, a second in front of us on this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the CROG bid for highway safety systems for line striping and pavement marking services.
Second.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is CROG bid for painting of lines on streets. It's budgeted annually to go out and do various portions of the street, refresh parking lots, so forth and so on. Mr. Turner is not here this evening, but he's recommending acceptance of that bid.
Questions for Jeff on that? This was in budget, right?
Yes.
We had a, okay. Straightforward. Tony?
Jeff, normally this work is done before school starts. Will the vendor be finishing that work before then, or will it be afterwards?
We would hope so.
Pretty straightforward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Where there is a paved parking lot, first and foremost.
Gravel doesn't count.
Gravel doesn't count.
Motion to accept the state of Connecticut bid of Costello for pavement milling services.
Second.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is when we pave a street, we got to mill off the old one first. That's the state bid to do that work. It's within budget, and we're recommending accepting the state of Connecticut bid for Costello.
Any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Finally, F.
Motion to approve the pavement program for Millwoods Park as requested.
Second.
Mr. Mayor and Council, we got a grant 2 years ago to pave most of Millwoods Park. The current paved areas would be repaved. And it's now time to do that. So Kathy Bagley and Mike Turner and Sally got together and decided, it's time to do that. So we'd like to go ahead and get that done this fall and make it all nice. Again, those roads are horrible. Those parking lots are horrible. Skateboarders find it inconvenient, I'm sure. But we'd like to go ahead and get that done. The bid is before you. It's a combination of the state grant, and then there's some leftover money from the creation of the gravel parking lot for the Little League field, and then there's some master plan or user fees, park rental user fees that we're committing to the project to get it all done.
Jeff, the only question I had about this was the timing, obviously, because Millwoods is so busy in the fall there. Assuming this gets passed this evening, I assume this project will start up pretty quickly. Any issues there, Kath?
Good evening. In talking with Mike Turner and the way they would do the work, it'd sort of be almost like paving a street where they'd be going in and getting all the rough work done first, but knowing the park is busy at night, they would be making it roadworthy for the evening, that we could still do that.
Good, thank you, Kath. Mike,
Good question. Is the gravel lot gonna be paved?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. And then, what's a loop detector?
It's the, I believe it's the traffic signal as you're going out onto Prospect, that you hit a detector for it to tell you to eventually change that light to green as you're entering Prospect.
Instead of sitting there for 15 minutes?
Well, yeah, and sometimes you still sit there for 15 minutes.
Yeah, if you look at all this intersections, you see cuts in the street, it's the magnetic detector.
Okay. That'll be good.
Kathy, I mean, the roads, the parking lot there is horrible. So, I mean, we got to address it. Just on a slightly different subject, did you got through the year at Millwoods without a washout for the second straight year, right?
Yes, we did, yes.
Good, good. So that the work that we did, the re-engineering of the beach and so forth.
It's held really well, and if you can remember the July 4th rain and the rain last Wednesday, we made it through both.
Good.
So there's always a smile on my face.
Excellent. Thank you.
The only other question I had, in terms of the high school use of Millwoods, is it freshman soccer? Do they use that? So is that any issue in terms of what's the timing of this?
There could be, but we've made a commitment to make sure that the school can get to the fields. So we're gonna be coordinating that.
Okay.
Because that end of the park, the upper parking lots are just gonna be repaved. Outside of the pool parking lot needs some reconstruction. So there should always be a way to get them in.
Okay.
And they come at the end of the day.
So Kathy, so the access road from the main road to the concession stand, is that gonna be milled or reconstructed, or is that just gonna be a pave over?
It's a little bit of both. On the main road, there's an area that will need to be reconstructed because you've probably driven over it and noticed that it's pretty bad. And then the loop around in front of the bathhouse, that entire loop has to be reconstructed because that's just failed.
Because I know how terrible that is, so.
Yes. So there are pieces that are being reconstructed and pieces that are being paved.
Thank you.
No further questions? Kathy, thank you on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you.
And we have an introduction of a resolution. Right, that just has to be read, Jeff?
That's just introduced.
Yes, it's for the grant. Very good. No action.
No action.
Very good. And the minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any changes, adaptations, corrections?
Just one question, maybe Dolores can look at it, but there was a reference, John Mullen, 158 Windmill Hill, and in the minutes, and I think this was also true there, he was down as an unaffiliated, and I'm not sure whether he's an unaffiliated or a Democrat. I just asked Dolores to check his registration. This is reappointment to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee.
Mhm. We'll check it again.
Motion to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed
Abstain.
or abstention? Abstention,
Abstain.
thank you. Jerry? Okay. Public comment, anyone else wishing to speak? Gus?
Good evening again. Gascol Antonio, 16 Morrison Avenue. About a meeting or two ago, I did question, or I asked the question, whose responsibility is it for fixing up a washout in front of your house? The property owner or the town? This washout is just east of Tifton and Morrison Avenue on the south side. And sad to say, and upset too, I guess, where is the inspector? I have the plans that were used to on Morrison Avenue for reconstructing the sidewalk. And one of the details right here shows a new curbing and the existing pavement behind the curbing. And there is a note which says, "So cut and remove excess pavement." As I remember, when I saw it, the residents complained and they got it back to the town and they came in and they start removing the pavement. But where the washout is, the excess pavement behind the curbing was never removed. I have to ask, where was the inspector? To second, where was the inspector when they installed that electrical line at the Catone Field or whatever? Where is the inspector right here? And to add that, there is another detail right here that shows. By the way, these were plans prepared by the town. This says pavement edge extension, which means the road was moved south, and it calls for 2 inches and 2 inches, 4 inches of bituminous. Originally, they were installed only 2 inches until the residents complained. They had to go back there and they redo the whole thing. So the question is, who's going to remove that existing pavement behind the curbing now, and who's going to fill in the washout? And isn't it amazing that the washout at Mill Woods, it did not happen the past 2 years. The washout on Morrison Avenue happened the last 2 years, and I've been there for 41 years. That's the only time I saw the washout. Another thing too, a lot of project was done not too long ago on Marsh Street where they installed new guide railing, I guess, wood guide railing. It looks good. I like it. Expensive guide railing. Did we need that? There's always a question mark. But the thing that bothers me now, I've been seeing it for the past few months, there are remnants of a 3-cable guide railing and anchorage right at the corner of Marsh Street, just before you get to the on-ramp going southbound, I guess. It's very unsightly. This is historic Wethersfield. You come from the north and you get to that exit, and the first thing you see it's this remnants of a 3-cable guide railing and anchorage. How long it's going to take before we take that off, remove it? And the question that I have, was it ever checked? The inspector, somebody must have said something. And even more disturbing, I'm sure there are a lot of town employees going by there and they see that, and it's acceptable. These are the employees we have in town. I wonder, I always say accountability. I don't think there is any in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Gus. Lee?
Lee Seekis, 117 Wells Road. Basically, I have a question about, the way some things are talked about by the council, by representatives, town employees about things being done. Oh, it's not too expensive. That doesn't say anything. Dollar figures make a difference. The Standish House for the ramp. Oh, well, it's been a while. What's a while? How long has it been a while? To tell you the truth, going back to last October, September, I was riding my scooter home from tag sailing or something. I drive by there and I start talking with a woman named Cindy who worked there and the owner. They were asking me about that ramp. This is almost a year ago. And it was decrepit then. It was a lawsuit waiting to happen way back then. And what does it, how long does it take for things to take place? And without a timeline about when things break and when things are fixed, how do we know we're getting what we should be getting from our officials? And one other comment I would like to make before, but too bad Kathy Bagley left. Earlier this year, when they had to renew applications for the Dollar service, there was a survey inside it which really did not even look like a true survey in a way. It just looked like a listing of when and where they go places. They go to ShopRite, and they don't go to ShopRite. They go to Stop and Shop. On Fridays in Rocky Hill, they go to Stop and Shop on Thursdays, and I think in Jordan Lane, and they go to Tuesday to Wednesday to Big Y. But they also listed only because people were asking about it when they had a meeting with the Wethersfield Advisory Committee way back in March. ShopRite in East Hartford, which has lower prices, and a new store that opened about a year and a half ago, maybe Best Market in Newington. The survey basically offered one trip a month if you checked it, and then they're only going to go to those places if they had plenty of checks. But they said in a survey basically, where do you like to shop? Well, some people never went to Best Market. I have never been there. I've been to ShopRite in East Hartford twice. Sometimes some stores have things other stores don't. And if you want somebody's judgment on something, you have to let them experience it or try it. You know, it's like saying, oh, how does it taste? And just giving a photo of a cake. You have to experience some things to have a true result or an opinion. I still like to see, and the 2 days they chose in that survey, if enough people signed up to go either to ShopRite or Best for the first Tuesday and the first Thursday of the month. Now, if people are going to be checking both places for the first week of the month, it's unlikely. It's not a well-run survey, in my opinion, as far as getting results. Even if they went every other week to one of these places, the first and third week maybe to ShopRite, and the first and third week, second, fourth week to Best Market. ShopRite is closer than Price Chopper in Newington. Best is in Newington. We already go to Newington. I'd just like to see that survey or reconsideration of that survey done again, because I know from the drivers of Curtin that they don't want to add it to their list. And I think that should be reopened, re-examined, and not 2 years, 3 years down the road. Because things, like I said, there's a timeline to things. Nobody lives forever. I thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Yes? Do you want to speak, George?
Yes,
I did.
He did.
I'm sorry. I'll say it a little louder, George. You always accuse me of mumbling, so. Yeah. We would never cut you off, George.
I still sense a certain level of mumbling. I say, what? You know, I can't hear.
It's okay. It's a bad habit I can't break.
Well, you gotta get over bad habits. My name is George A. Rue, 956 Cloverdale Circle. And it seems like forever that I haven't been here. And I really have missed it. It's, I've always found coming here stimulating. It's interesting. I've often said it's better than TV. But I even haven't had even time to watch the programs, on the council meetings on TV. I've got this little guy in my life these days, and boy, does he keep us busy. And that's how come I was late tonight, and he's always number one. But that doesn't mean I haven't been concerned about things in town. And I don't have a lot of complaints at the moment. Some of the comments this evening were very interesting. I found some of the chief's comments very interesting. Some of them I had question marks on, and some of them made some kind of sense. But be that as it may, I'll touch on this, and I'm doing this right off the cuff, no fancy notes. I didn't have time for those. The last time I was here was shortly before Memorial Day. And some of you know, I've addressed the Memorial Day parade as any one of a number of times. It was right after that, and it's late now, but I just wanted to share a card that I got from one of our businesses in town. And most of my council persons here, they seem to think that my complaints about the Memorial Day parade is just a pain in the neck, you know. Why, we really like to have a lot of fun. So I got this card and it said, "Honor Memorial Day." Big card. So I look at the back, it was from Revis. And what caught my attention was, "Have a happy Memorial Day with your friends. If you need an agent to sell your house, call Revis." I got a note. I may write this guy a little note someday and speak about that. The other thing that I have tried to be reasonably patient on is that blight next to me. I had the pleasure of having the mayor, Paul, visit with me a while on one day, and that was quite a ways back. And I was optimistic that maybe something will happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Easy. The manager stopped by one time on his bike, and we chatted quite a bit. We didn't take the extensive tour because, as Jeff told me, he'd been there 12 times. Well, I don't know whether he drove by 12 times or wandered around the muck for 12 times, but in any event, he was there, and we chatted. And again, it was, I felt, kind of positive exchange. But again, still nothing's happened. Now, that problem goes back, and I just happened to look at Steve over here, probably shortly after he was out of diapers. It's not long after that, where that place just sort of started going to hell. And when I see it today, I like to take my great-grandson over and look at the ducks, but you can't go over there anymore. You get assaulted by mosquitoes. There's a big yellow sign over there. They put some kind of poison in the doggone pond to keep the mosquitoes and stuff under control. I mean, it's just a disgrace to the town. And yet, on the other hand, and all I ever hear from our staff is, "We ain't got the money. We ain't got the $80,000. Well, it might cost more than $80,000, but you know, that poverty line gets a bit tiresome after a while. And so I've been badgering people for the longest of time to try to share things in a positive way, but nothing seems to sink in. Yet on the other hand, we can do all kinds of work down on the green, put all new trees in, we bend over backwards. Like, the green is important to the town, but so are the other open spaces. And the parks, I don't know who's responsible for the open space next to me. I don't know whether it's Kathy Bagley or the manager or the engineering division, but it's really a disgrace. And it's a shame. And I can still remember Adel when he was mayor. He says, "George, we're putting money away." And if a private homeowner let their property go to hell the way that who do I have to blame? I almost have to focus in on staff. There's no other person that you can focus in on. They're the ones that either make things happen or don't make things happen. You people approve. And rather than share things in some positive, constructive way, maybe there's a different route that has to be done. Maybe it has to be more vicious. Maybe it has to be more negative. Maybe it has to be a lot of things. It's not my preferred style. I really like to deal with people as peers and as equals. People that I feel are concerned with what's good for the town. People who don't worry about, I heard an interesting thing, the skateboard people might have a problem in the park, and because the parking lots the streets in some of the parks are not in the best of shape. And park streets don't certainly get the traffic that Cloverdale Circle gets or other streets in town get. And yet they can be big potholes by me and all around our area that just never seem to go away. So I share this pond issue. I'd really like to see whether or not you people really listen or whether I'm just up here wasting my time. I'd like to think I'm not. I'd like to think that there is at least somewhere within the framework of those who manage a $90 million budget, that $80,000 is like if I threw my change purse out here, from a percentage perspective. You almost get the feeling that they don't care or they don't want to do it. So with that, I'll share that and let that go with that. I did have, one other thing. In one of our last storms, a big branch came down and I cut it up and made it disappear. It was on the town's property, but it wasn't gonna go away easy. But I left the part that came down out of a tree that is a hazard. It's a hazard. And you saw it, Paul. But nothing's happened. Nothing's happened. This thing weighed about 50 pounds. I weighed it. I struggled and got a scale out there, carried it, and said, took the difference between me and it, you know. And it came down and dug into the ground about yay deep, a piece about yay big in diameter. If that came down on a child or an adult during a storm, and it wasn't one of these horrendous storms, it was a heavy wind that came down one night, could have come down during the day, could have killed a person. And you got claims on rents and stuff like that, but suing the town, that's a pretty tough thing, because you all know my wife fell there, and I just gave up trying to sue the town, because that's like trying to fly. One of the other concerns that I have along this same line, I read about grants. I pick up an article, Wethersfield gets $450 to redevelop a vacant properties. There's one on tonight's agenda, $450,000 for some kind of a grant. I don't know exactly where it was here. I saw it down here. Oh, commercial facade improvement program. And it would seem to me, and I was told that the trees on the Broad Street Green came about as somebody contributed them. But I understand that the town, and maybe I'm wrong, but I understand the town people planted them. I'm not sure of that, but there was a cost to the town. And I don't know why, with all of the talent that we keep hearing is available in town, that you can't go out and scrape up a grant and get the doggone thing fixed, and fix some of the other blighted sections in town, okay? Enough said on that subject. State dams benefit from USDA fund. I was gonna skip this, but I read this article about the state's got some, United States Department of Agriculture funds and fixed dams. And I read it talked about a lady by the name of Lisa Cloverdale. And I said, Lisa Cloverdale? And I got all the way to the end and I went back and it was Coverdale. And I was so disappointed. I said, jeez, I was gonna call her up and say, hey, let's get your pond done. Another thought I'd like to share with you that you want to think about, and Chief mentioned Ferguson today. And I've been watching that very, very closely in the Times and in the paper and on TV. And prior to that thing even happening, I've had my real reservations about a police state mentality that I see developing in my country. And if you read the Times, if any of you do, and go beyond the Hartford Current, which is, of very limited value, the militarization of the police is something that I expect my elected citizens to be damn concerned about. I don't think there's a one of you here who have ever seen a police state right up front and in your face. East Germany, Nazi Germany. You don't know what it's like. And when you see the police, and they're all heroes because they're all deserving of everything because they put their lives at risk, and you see these war vehicles with machine guns aimed at our citizens by not our police, obviously, but the police in Ferguson. And that seems to be a trend. There seems to be a movement across the country that maybe we've got to stop and rethink our way through this. So I share with you as you are confronted with the requests, and I know there is a fair amount of that happening here in the state of Connecticut, military equipment going to the police and SWAT teams and all this other kind of stuff, that you really stop and think, is this really what we want to do? Do you really want to be part of a force that can sit on top of some kind of a big Humvee or something with a machine gun aimed at fellow citizens? And this is what happened, this is what happened in Ferguson, so it's not a thing that doesn't happen, it can't happen, it has. I just suggest you really think about that, think your way through that and reflect about whether this is really something that as elected officials on the local level, you want to be thinking about. And it's just food for thought. And with that, it's nice being back. I don't know how come I do this on a regular basis, but that little guy keeps us pretty busy, but like everybody says, keeps you young.
Thank you, George.
Have a good summer. I won't be back, I can't come back until, I had to come tonight, because we're gonna be away in September, you'll be all past September by the time we return. Peace.
Okay, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Thanks, thank you. I appreciate it.
Come down, come down. You walked over it, Mark.